Novice to Expert, Stories and Strategies for Real Estate Success. Hey there, I'm Laura Ortega, and I'm thrilled that you're joining me for Novice to Expert, where we go behind the curtain of expert and novice realtors. Are you considering becoming a realtor, or are you looking to level up your real estate business? Then this podcast is for you. In this podcast, I'll be interviewing experts in the field, sharing my own growth journey, and we'll learn together how to create habits that produce prosperity and bless others. Whether you're a seasoned realtor or a complete novice, don't miss out on any episode. Hit that subscribe button now to stay updated with the latest interviews, tips, and strategies from industry experts. Let's go. Episode 10, Social Media Tactics for Unstoppable Lead Gen, with special guest, Leah Behr. Hello, and welcome to the podcast, Novice to Expert, Stories and Strategies for Real Estate Success. I'm Laura Ortega, your host, and today joining me is the amazing guest, Leah Behr. She's bringing over 19 years of experience to the real estate table. She's coming from Colorado Springs, and she's going to introduce a little bit about herself.
Hi, thanks so much for having me, Laura. I'm excited to be here today.
Awesome. And if you could tell us a little bit about your family business and tell us how you got into real estate.
Yeah. So, real estate has always just kind of been in my blood. That's why I'm 38 years old and can say I've been in it for almost 20 years. So, my mother was a mortgage loan officer. Whenever I was in high school, I would, kind of do some assisting for her behind the scenes. And when I graduated high school, I started working at her company as a loan processor and was trying to go to college at the same time. And then, eventually my mother actually she had to be medically retired. And so at that point, I kind of stopped the college thing and started to just take over her business. And then really, the crash of 2008 happened. I relocated to Colorado Springs, and it was really tough times, as anybody knows, at that time in the market. And so I decided that I really wanted to learn the real estate side of things, and really from the ground up. I was in a new town, I didn't know anybody. And for me, I feel like the Lord really orchestrated those like 5 months of my life, because we were coming at a time where employment was just so difficult. And I had tried to, apply to so many different places and get employed, and just kept getting a lot of no's until I got the yes that really changed the entire trajectory of my life. It's how I met my husband. Um, I was asked to be an assistant for a really high producing agent in town. She kind of got connected to me through a failed application that I had applied, just the Lord working everything out together,
Crazy.
I'd say. And then, yeah. And so she needed an assistant, and it was part-time at first. I was happy to take anything because, like I said, it was really tough times then. And I ended up working with her, and that is where my husband would come back from college to work with his parents and sit, 7 feet from me at that time. So it's all these no's that eventually turned into the greatest yes. And not only was meeting my husband obviously a huge blessing in that all, but I really felt like I got aligned with one of, if not the best company in our town, and really was able to learn from who I consider to be the best of the best in the industry. So really paved the way for
Wow.
me. I got to learn all about transaction coordinating and
Sure.
just really the things like from the ground up. I think we don't realize sometimes how hard being a real estate assistant is. And I feel like that was such a blessed opportunity that I got to really
Mm,
start from that place.
it's amazing. I feel like it probably accelerated your growth as a novice, just being surrounded by this expert.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, she is a very high producing agent, and high level of ethics, high level of morals. I think, and I experience with a lot of agents in the industry some practices that aren't really the best, often. And
Definitely.
I feel like just with her moral compass, I was able to learn the right way to do things very early on.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you've been in real estate for 19 years, which is so incredible, and you're so young still, how do you feel that your expertise has changed over the years? So you said transactions and a lot of just kind of learning the ropes in the beginning. And then what have you seen throughout the years that's really helped your business?
Yeah, I think, when you learn from an assistant level, transaction coordination level, you get really in-depth contract knowledge that a lot of agents unfortunately don't have or start out with for sure. And so that really set me apart. I think that what I had to learn was lead generation skills because I knew the contract. I knew that I knew how to negotiate an inspection and what to look for, at inspections and how to really advise well in those ways, as well as how to write a good contract, and a good offer. But
Mhm.
I think being kind of surrounded by people that it seemingly looks like business is just coming to them, I had to really learn how to develop that and learn how to lead generate.
Wow. And that is so exciting because that is the exact secret sauce that you're going to be sharing with our listeners
Yeah.
today. So, Leah, as a part of this amazing family group of realtors with the Platinum Group, as this independent brokerage, you've had to work really hard to lead generate over the years because, like you said, sometimes like these great agents, they walk around and it's like leads are like it's almost like a magnet coming to them, but there's something behind that, behind the curtain. So I really want you to take a minute and just pull back that curtain for our viewers. Talk to them about lead generating. There's so many options out there, but especially you've been rocking on social media. I even saw that you had a post the other day about how you found a lead on Instagram. Somebody contacted you and you closed their home in just 45 days. Let's start
Mhm.
with that story.
Yeah, definitely. And actually, I have an even better one. I met
Okay.
someone through Instagram and just closed them within 30 days. So,
Oh, there you
yeah.
go. Leah.
They, reached out to me. They'd kind of been doing their own research behind the
Yeah.
scenes, intending to reach out all along, and then the right home just popped up for them and reached out. And, immediately that night we were writing an offer. It was a backup offer, but it was the perfect home for them. It's the one they wanted, and it ended up very quickly turning into a first position offer, and we closed within 30 days. So,
That's amazing. And what was
yeah.
like that first contact that they sent you? Was
It's
it
usually just through Instagram, really.
okay?
Sometimes people will email me separately,
Mhm.
but a lot of times it's just a DM starts the conversation.
They just say, "I like your profile. I'm
Yeah.
interested in the house." Or
Well,
what do they
well,
say
basically,
typically?
it's just reaching out. And in this case, it was saying,
Mhm.
"Hi, Leah, I've been meaning to reach out for a while. We're very interested in this particular home. Could you help us?"
Mhm.
Another time it's, "Hey, Leah, we're thinking about relocating to the area in a year, looking for an agent to help us with that. Do you have time?" It's a lot of just starting the conversation.
Mhm.
Often, too, people will download, I have a relocation guide available for Colorado Springs on
Perfect.
the link in my profile, as well as a home buying guide.
Okay.
And it's a really great tool to be able to capture emails so that you can know who's interested in buying. If someone downloads the buyer guide, they're not always going to be somebody interested in Colorado Springs, right? It might be just somebody in Dallas
True.
wanting to learn more about buying and happened upon my profile.
Yeah.
But if someone downloads my relocation guide, it's almost guaranteed that they're thinking about moving to Colorado Springs, and then I can follow up with them and have a conversation and see if I can be of assistance.
Yeah, that's awesome. And even on your page, you highlight so many local places that you love. Obviously, you're talking about like, the different food places, places to hang out, just showing beautiful scenery of Colorado. So that attracts people to say, "Oh, I want to move there." Right?
Yeah, it's twofold. So definitely part of that. A huge motivating factor for me to do that, however, was Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary
Okay.
V.
Yes.
He's well-known media expert.
Mhm.
He said one day in a forum that I heard online that realtors should be guides for their city. And I thought, wow, that's so true. Because if somebody is looking for a restaurant in the area, or somebody is looking for
Right.
things to do, or, sometimes people just don't want to hear a realtor pitching themselves all the time or
Mhm.
sharing about real estate all the time. I know that any account I connect with or I follow, I connect with them if they're sharing a personal touch or sharing something else that's of interest than just trying to sell me something. And so that's a huge piece of the puzzle for me in terms of social media, is sharing my city and why it's great and the things to do. And then I have people that live in this town that follow me and say, how do you know of all these cool places? I've never even heard of them. Well, that
Yes.
gives them reason to stay on my profile more than me sharing about real estate. Like maybe they're just not in a season of caring about real estate very much, but they know that once a week I'm going to share something cool to do in our town.
Right, right. And people are likely to buy or sell, they say every 7 years
Hmm.
average, right? And so being just in front of them all the time when they're just, I like your content,
Hmm.
um, then they're going to be more likely to be like, oh, wait, yeah, she's a realtor. Oh, wow, she's really experienced. Look at her knowledge of this. Look at her free guides. And then trust you in that process too.
It's staying top of mind, it's,
Mhm.
I think the biggest thing I've learned over the years in terms of lead generation in general, and let me just back up and say, because I don't think I ever explained how I got to where I am in terms of
Yes.
my family team today. So I said I was an assistant transaction coordinator, and then I met my husband. And, after we got married, I was licensed, I joined their team, and it's a family team. It's his parents who actually started our brokerage firm and are part owners of the brokerage firm, and him and myself and his little brother actually works with us now for the past 4 years, so it is
Oh
a
my
full family
goodness.
operation. Yeah. um,
Wow.
but it really allows us to divide and conquer and serve a ton of clients as a result of it. We
Yes.
are ranked number 10 in our city, our collective business, out of 4,600 agents. And
Congrats.
that really speaks to just our ability to, like I said, divide and conquer. My husband handles the listings, I handle the buyers. It's similar with my in-laws, but any client that comes into our team is really treated the same way. We pick up the slack for others if we need to. um, we let everybody know that we're all five available. If I'm not available to show at home, then someone
Mhm.
else on the team can. So because we're family, we can really fully have each other's backs and
Right.
operate different than, most teams. And our
Mhm.
clients, really seem to like that. So to continue on the lead generation conversation, I think, again, coming into a team like that, where
Yeah.
it's already high producing, already pretty well known in the community, the lead generation skill wasn't necessarily really something I learned, because the business was just flowing to the team, and it was more just working in the business than being able to work on the business. And so in the past couple years, and really in the past, 6 months to a year, I have really been able to dial in what lead generation tactic works for me personally, and that is social media.
Mhm.
Um, Being involved in the community is huge, but I think leaving that lasting impression on social media it
Yes.
makes such a big impact.
Yeah, absolutely. Um and it is different, right? When you get the leads all flowing to you and then wait a second, I can also build my own source, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Cause I think, I was talking to a mentor of mine recently. I
Mhm.
think being that we are, a team, and truly, like, my in-laws bring in the lion's share of that business, it's like we're just so in it sometimes that I didn't have time to really think about my own lead generation.
Right.
And I just realized how important that is to me in the past, couple of years. And was trying to really find my voice and how to stand out in that to bring our team more business.
Mhm.
And I've been on social media my whole life. I mean, AOL Messenger was my jam,
Yes. That's how I learned to type.
Yeah, exactly. And so why not
Yeah.
use a tool that I'm already on every day and that I already love, and use it to empower my business? Um and that's what I did. And honestly, it's been incredible.
And I love your story too, because you didn't start off with posting real estate content. So, like, I just want to encourage any listeners out there, like, you can make that switch because, again, you are the brand. So,
Mhm.
it's how you show up consistently, how you present yourself, what value you give every single time that you show up on social media, right? So, tell us how you first started on social media.
Yeah. And I will say value
Mhm.
before we go there is the perfect word, Laura, because I
Yes.
think in terms of lead generation, you have to be providing value.
Mhm.
So if you have your warm leads, your, hot leads, your cold leads, wherever bucket they're in, sometimes we don't know how to even reach out to a lead. Like, they may have reached out to us 3 months ago and said, hey, we're thinking about buying in the next 6 months. And then you don't really know how to stay in connection with them, or even if they're 2 years out. If
Mhm.
you can consistently look for what they're looking for and send it to them with no strings attached, you are providing value. You're not just reaching out to them and saying, hi, can I do anything for you today? No,
Right.
you're already giving them the answer by providing them that value. Hey, I just found this home in the area you're looking. It's a
Mhm.
new build and your price point, really great builder incentives. Just wanted to let you know, and I've
Love
done
it.
that time and time again with no response. And months later, currently it's turned into 2 listings where I was just sending somebody new build information because they asked once and they didn't respond to about 5 or 6 emails I sent, and then eventually said, hey, thank you so much for continuing to follow up with me. I really appreciate all the information you've shared. I actually have 2 investment properties I'm thinking about selling. Can we meet? So it's the
Amazing.
value piece that I think is the most important uh, topic that we can be providing, whether
Mhm.
that be through emails or whether that be through social media.
Mhm. And I love that you always say like it's no strings attached. That and the fact that you persevere like when you don't get a response, because I
Yeah.
feel like a lot of agents were just kind of like, okay, crickets. Now what do
They
I
don't want
do?
to they don't want to hear from me. You know what's so
Yeah.
funny about that too is I had a listing, or I'm sorry, I had a buyer 6 years ago. They purchased with me, and I've tried to follow up with them multiple times since. They
Mhm.
never responded to my text, calls, nothing.
Mhm.
And I'm listing their house tomorrow. So
Heck.
like they called back. I don't know. Life just happened. Maybe people sometimes don't, you know, talking to your realtor may not be your hugest priority, but that doesn't mean that you shouldn't continue to follow up until you get a no. I mean, Ryan
Yeah.
Serhant says it best. He says, follow up until they die, which
It's
he's
true
great. I love
though.
him. He's such
It's
a good
true. And
inspiration.
then
But
like the follow-up after the closing too.
yeah, totally. Yeah. And so I think obviously you don't want to be annoying and you don't want to be like,
Right.
hey, it's me again, but just if
Yeah.
you can, and that's where the value piece is really important again, is that
Mhm.
if you can just find a way to make a touch while providing value, it doesn't come across as annoying. It comes across, oh, interesting. Okay, thanks. Maybe they don't respond, but at least you've done what you can in terms of that providing of value. So I want to answer your question because I know we kind of went off on a tangent there.
Yeah.
But you were asking about my background with the social media, I think. Is that
Mhm.
correct?
Yes. How you
Okay.
started with something else before real estate.
Yeah. So, I've been in real estate forever, obviously, as you know, in one way or another. But
Mhm.
when I was a real estate assistant, I really started posting a lot. I had a fashion blog, I had an Instagram. It was kind of, I didn't know that being a realtor at that time, a real estate agent, was going to be my career. I was a real estate assistant at the time. And so I didn't know, I was just exploring different passions, right? And
Mhm.
so I had built a pretty decent following on Instagram by way of sharing fashion and lifestyle and a lot about my family or just life. And for a few years ago, I made the decision that, I've been a real estate agent for 10 years now. I guess it
Right.
was 7 at the time. And I was like, what am I doing? Like, why am I still sharing this? Like, sure, it's a passion, but I can
Mhm.
wear nice clothes and and do that off camera, right?
Yes.
And so I really started to think about what I wanted
Mm.
my real estate career to look like. And I really pumped the brakes on what I was sharing in terms of what I had been sharing on social media. And there was a lot of fear for truly a couple of years about fully switching gears. Like I would share more about real estate, but in large part, I kept the two worlds very separate. Like nobody in real estate knew that I had this blog. And I really didn't talk a lot about real estate on the Instagram platform either. So I was
Mhm.
kind of afraid of like how to make that transition to share
Right.
about real estate when I hadn't been doing it at all.
Mm.
And also there's just, even though I had been in and have been in the real estate industry for so long, I think you
Yeah.
get imposter syndrome and you just think like, who am I to be an authority in this field online? And it's really vulnerable and it exposes you and you feel like you're going to be questioned maybe about the information that you're sharing. And so there's a lot of negative self-talk that can happen
Oh, yeah.
within that. And I'm really happy to say that about 6 months ago, I broke through that and just said, no, I know that I am an expert in the field. Like time has told that,
Mhm.
I'm going to start putting that information out there. And, the message here is never be afraid to change directions and start, sharing something new, even if you have been doing something for a while, because I can tell you that it has grown my lead generation exponentially as a result.
Wow. Wow. I love that testimony because it's so encouraging. It's just so encouraging because some people may be building in a certain way and they're like, oh, pivot. Right. And
Mhm.
it's okay. It's okay to do that pivot because again, like we said before, like you are the brand, you're bringing that value, like we just talked about. And I wanted to ask you a question that I've gotten from a lot of realtors about social media.
Mhm.
So you mentioned Instagram. Why, first of all, why'd you pick Instagram as like your main platform? And then second of all, what is the type of content that you create that brings value for people?
Yeah, and this is a great question about the type of content, because I think this is where realtors can get hung up.
Mhm.
But why Instagram? Simply because I like Instagram. It's my favorite
Mhm.
platform. It's what I'm on the most. I have tried, I mean, Facebook I use pretty just much for personal. I could expand there. I've heard of agents having a lot of success sharing there. Um, and TikTok, I've heard of agents having a lot of success, but I tried TikTok out. I was just like, this platform is not for me. I just don't enjoy it. And so, if you can be really great at just one platform, put all your energy there. If you don't feel like you can be really great across 3 platforms, then it's probably not worth it.
Right.
If you can be great, I would encourage you to do it. But
Mhm.
each platform kind of has its own algorithm, its own, kind of content that it responds positively to.
Mhm.
And I had just downloaded TikTok to share real estate content, and I didn't use the platform or understand the platform to even know what would perform well there. Whereas
Right.
I've spent many, many years on Instagram. I understand it
Mhm.
very well, and it just feels like the most beneficial for me to put my energy there.
Absolutely. And then moving on to what type of content do you like to create or like brings the most value to your particular audience?
Yeah, I think this is a great question because real estate content, sharing market updates, people do want to know about the market, sure. But I think you have to really think about what is eye catching, what is also going to be attractive to the algorithm in terms of what's going to get somebody to read more. So if you have a catchy hook,
Mhm.
um, that really helps with the engagement and getting more read time. I think I always share about like a neighborhood. I usually once a week will go just shoot. And it's very simple. Like some agents will go hire a media team to shoot a neighborhood, and that looks great and very nice. But to be honest, I just go and drive in my car or roll down the window with my phone, make sure that it's a nice sunny day and the sunlight is hitting right. And I just take a picture or take a video of like three
Yeah.
or four houses in a row to just kind of give the vibe of what type of home you're going to experience in that neighborhood. And then I
Mm,
expand on it in the caption. And so I think that provides value to somebody that wants to relocate, is considering different areas. Then I can point them to my relocation guide to try to grab their email. Um, I think we talked a little bit about providing or sharing about, what is happening in the city,
yeah.
especially around, holidays and such. There's so many things that people just don't know are going on in your city
Mhm.
that you can be a resource for. Like, you want people to look at you as you are the guide for your town. I want to be
Yeah.
known for the guide for Colorado Springs. And then if people are looking at me for things to do, looking at me for restaurants, neighborhoods, whatever, and then I'm also sprinkling in really valuable real estate content that makes me look like the expert, then I'm going to be top of mind when they're ready to buy or sell.
Absolutely. And they're also going to be like, oh, I feel like I can connect with her because she likes the same types of places that I like. You're
Exactly.
building that
And
relationship.
that's people are afraid to share their personality or share on stories. And, I know, speaking from experience, I just thought, I think, like, especially being around surrounded by so many really well established professionals at my
Mhm.
brokerage firm, I always felt I had to prove myself. And even starting in real estate at 18, I mean, I looked like a baby and I still sound pretty young, and I felt like I always had to prove myself. So I was a little afraid to share my personality and just the quirkiness. But, that's what people connect with. And you want to keep it professional. Like I see agents sharing on their reels, like just, these trends, these like funny trends that really aren't relevant at all to real estate. It's just they're wanting to connect with like other funny moms or something.
Right.
And I don't think that's beneficial. Like, I
Mhm.
don't think, I understand you're wanting to connect with people like you, but I think that's where stories you can share your personality. I think when people look at your Instagram feed and your reels and your static posts, it needs to be very clear what you are about. And I want to be known for professionalism, value, and a guide to my city. And if you want to see my personality, go to stories. You want to see my family life, go to stories. But
Yes.
I want you to know that I mean business when you look at my feed.
Yeah, and absolutely, and like I said, you're bringing value, right? Not only with the free guides and the content that you produce, but I love what you said of just like you just roll down the window on a sunny day. Like just for any realtors that are kind of stuck, like I don't know where to start creating content, to just encourage them that it can be simple to start
It
with.
it truly can. You can take
Mhm.
B-roll of you. I take a lot of footage when I'm out hiking with my daughter because we have incredible hikes here in our city, and I use that and repurpose it for this is what you get to experience in Colorado Springs, and really show. And I mean, Colorado Springs is stunning. So I have that working for me where people are like, wow, I like this video. I'm going to keep watching it just because she's showing me something really pretty. And of course, that helps with the algorithm. But I didn't have to really think much about content planning, right? I was just out on a hike with my daughter, saw a pretty video, and I record it. And that's pretty much how it always goes. I'm at a house or a builder model. And this is something I do a lot is I go to builder models and ask them if I can shoot B-roll in their homes.
Oh,
And
perfect.
it's important to get that permission as well, because
Okay.
unless you
Mhm.
are, the listing agent of a property, you're not really allowed ethically to market that property. Like we're not allowed to go into, I'm not
Mhm.
allowed to go into your listing and shoot it and market it on my Instagram. And I think that's something that agents really need to know. It's a violation of code of ethics. And so you
Oh,
have
wow.
to get that
Okay.
permission to
Mhm.
shoot footage that isn't your own listing.
Okay.
But it can be a really great, easy way to slap here's things to know if you're relocating to the area, or
Right.
um, here's some builder incentives to know about right now, or here's a creative way to think about your financing options and things like that.
Talk to us a little bit about, so we talked about content creation. We talked about how you're using Instagram as a platform, right? And how do you how do you plan to produce such valuable content? And what does your time blocking schedule look like for that?
Yeah. So sometimes, you know, on a good week, I'm brainstorming all of this on, a lot of people do content, or just prep for their week on Sundays. And I see the value in that. But to be honest, I'm just trying to take a day off and enjoy with my family if I don't have to show homes on Sundays. So that's really more where my priorities are at. So Monday morning, usually I'm thinking about the week ahead. I keep an ongoing list of notes in my phone of just content ideas. I know for me, something I can always fall back on is sharing like a local restaurant or thing to do. I'm almost always eating out during the week or going to a coffee shop or grabbing a drink with a friend. And
Yeah.
so that's really easy content to produce.
Mm-hmm.
Um, the other thing is the neighborhood. That's always a go-to. And other than that, I do try to do, I try to do 5 posts a week, and
Okay.
3 of them would be real estate content, and 2 of them would be more like hyper local, content.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, it's just keeping that running list in your phone. I think it's okay to get ideas from other real estate creators. You just don't want to copy them. Obviously, you want to make it
Mhm.
your own, but I think we all kind of get ideas from each other, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Um, and so, yeah, just keeping a list in your phone so that it's easy for you to, when anything pops in your mind, just put it in there. And then Monday morning, when you're doing your content creation, you kind of have a good list going.
That's a great tip because that is definitely going to save us a lot of time, and to have that dedicated time during the week too to say, okay. And then when you like, do you plan out your reels? Because one thing I've noticed with Instagram is like you're not, unless you use like an outside platform, it's hard to post a reel like you can schedule posts through Canva, for example,
Yeah.
but you can't schedule reels. Do
Mhm.
you schedule your reels, like make like batch create them and then schedule them? Or do you like save them in drafts and then post them later? Or do you just have like a bank and your
Yeah,
captions all
it
ready to go?
depends. Yeah, it really depends. So on a good
Okay.
week, I would have all 5 posts ready to prepped on Monday, and then I would just know if I don't have any like appointments at noon, I try to post around the noon time frame.
Okay.
But I personally like to post them myself. I think that Instagram favors that. I don't know for sure, but I
Probably.
think when you're loading them from other platforms, I think anytime another platform is interacting with Instagram, it might
Mhm.
be confusing for the algorithm, right? And so for me, I think posting directly in the platform is beneficial.
Mhm.
And I try to stick to noon every day, but some days
There
you're
you
just
go.
busy and it doesn't work. So you post when you can, and that's
Yeah.
fine too. I haven't really, I don't know. The algorithm is hard to figure out. Some people think they have it figured out. I can't say that I do, but that's what works for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And then with lead generation, right? So going back to lead generation through Instagram, um, are consistent, you're posting content, you're bringing value, you're giving freebies. Um, Talk about how lead generation using social media could save you time as a realtor versus like
Oh,
other methods.
yeah. So I think regardless, you still have to have a solid follow-up plan, right? So I don't think that time will be saved in that regard. I
Mm-hmm.
think personally, before really dialing in on social media, I am really involved in the community. I'm involved with several nonprofits, and that has
Cool.
had the side benefit of helping my business for sure, but now having a little one, I don't have the time that I used to have to be in the community. And
Yeah.
so it's really such a beautiful way for me to enjoy this season of life with
Yeah.
my young child and not feel pressed to have to constantly be out in the flow because I'm putting content out on the internet that keeps me in the flow. So I could be at the park with my daughter
Uh-huh.
instead of, a city event and still have my name out there. So it does save time in that way, but
Mhm.
it's not going to save you time in the follow up. You still have to do the follow up. So
Right.
I really try to adhere to, I in a perfect world, I would do this every day, but that's just not always the case. So at least 3 days a week, I'm looking at my cold, warm, and hot leads and
Mm-hmm.
doing intentional follow up with them. So I actually learned this strategy from Ryan Serhant as well. His book, Sell It Like
Mhm.
Serhant, is fabulous.
Yes.
Highly recommend it. It is loaded with good real estate content and probably one of the best ones in that I've read, to be honest.
Okay.
But he has a system that is, if it's a hot lead, that means they're hot to trot. They are ready to buy. They are going to buy here soon.
Okay.
And those leads, he says he's following up with them every day, I believe. I'm not. I probably follow up with my hot leads once, maybe twice a week, depending on how hot they are.
Right.
Um, warm leads would be these people would buy or sell, right? If it were the right situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm following up with them every 3 weeks. And cold leads are we've made a connection about buying or selling at one point, and I don't want to forget that they showed interest, and I'm going to continue to reach out to them once a quarter. And so
Okay.
that I have just a Google sheet with hot, warm, cold leads. I look at it and I just reach out. So I think you still definitely have to have a strong follow up game, and you're not going to escape, the time on that one.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us the name? It was a book, right? Can you tell us the name of the
Yeah.
book one more time?
Sell It Like Sirhan by
Sell it,
Ryan
sir.
Sirhan. He
Perfect.
is,
We'll
uh,
link those in the show notes.
yeah, he's a New York real estate, mogul known for being on $1 million listing on Bravo. And I'm a Bravo holic. So
There you go. Well, it's just fun. Like you find people that you admire and then you say, what's working? Let's copy that
Yeah.
and make it my own.
Well, and it's like I go back to where, because I joined a high producing team, I never really learned these strategies. We were just
Yeah.
in the business and handling all the leads that came in. And so for me, um, when I read that in Ryan's book, I thought, oh wow, that is how you lead follow up. That is how you nurture your leads.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And you don't lose them
Yeah.
because it's easy. Like you get a lead. Yay. It's like, oh, well, how are they doing? I don't
Yeah.
know. I haven't talked to them in a month. And you're like, what? You lost them.
Totally. And then that goes back to the providing value piece, because it can feel awkward to reach out to people if they're not responding or whatever, but if you're providing value every
Mhm.
time, it feels a lot less awkward.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to wrap this up with your best advice for both novice realtors and what we consider expert realtors.
Yeah, for sure. So my advice for novice realtors would really be to align yourself with an expert. I feel like that gave me a huge competitive edge in my business, to
Mhm.
have really learned from who I consider to be the best realtors. My, previous boss when I was an assistant, and now my father-in-law, actually, he is a huge mentor to me professionally and personally. And I know that I am a great agent because of his mentorship. So
Wow.
that would be my advice for the novice. And then for the expert, I think the lesson here is don't be afraid to try something new, right? I had a certain thing I was doing with Instagram for a very long time. And when I finally said, no, I'm going to try something new and go all in on this, it
Mhm.
has done wondrous things for my business. And I don't think I shared this, but I made a goal, a pretty extravagant goal at the beginning of the year, to 3x my production from last year. And I can confidently say that I'm on track to do that. And it's, only quarter two. So,
Let's go, Leah. Yes.
yeah. So I think, yeah, just don't be afraid to try something new. So I think another huge message to realtors is confidence, and it's difference between cockiness. It's like just being
Mhm.
empowered to know the message that you're sharing on social media is of value. And yeah, I think just not being afraid to put it out there and just stand firm in that, no, I am the expert and here's what I know, and just having that confidence to share it.
Absolutely. And if you go to her page, you're going to see her showing that confidence, showing that those ethics, and showing up all the time with value.
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Wow, Leah, you've dropped so much value for our listeners. Man, I hope people are going to listen to this over and over again to get all those tips and tricks. They've got their notebooks out and they're writing this down because you've dropped so much value. Where can they find you on Instagram? And then also tell us the name of your website so that our listeners can find you.
Yeah. So on Instagram, it's just at Leah_Behr. That's Leah_Behr. And then the website is behrandbehr.com.
Okay, fantastic. It's been amazing having you on the podcast, and we can't wait to follow your journey. You've been listening to the Novice to Expert podcast. If you're interested in partnering, want to share your own experience as a realtor, or want to sell or buy in DFW, DM me at lauraortega.realtor on Instagram and follow for content that uplifts and empowers you to become a real estate expert.